Thom Hartmann here on the news. You need to know this. Mitt Romney just couldn't beat Santa Claus. At least that's how he's spinning his landslide loss to President Obama in last week's election. According to the New York Times and the Los Angeles Times, Mitt Romney convened a conference call with donors on Wednesday and blamed his loss on a president who was very generous and promised to give away big gifts to women, minorities, and the poor. Those gifts that Romney's referring to are things like contraceptive access for women, affordable student loans for young people, health care for poor people, and a pathway to citizenship for undocumented immigrants who've been living in this country since they were kids. Romney calls them gifts, while the rest of us call them basic essentials needed to make it in America. Republican strategist Jude Wanniski was the first to label Democrats as Santa Claus back in the 1970s for giving Americans things like Social Security and Medicare. Wanniski said Republicans had to play Santa Claus too by giving people tax cuts, which Republicans have stuck to ever since. Post-election, a lot of conservative talking heads, from Rush Limbaugh to Bill O'Reilly and now Mitt Romney, have played the gift card against President Obama. What they ignore is that for several generations now, we as Americans, through our democracy, have voted in these policies. We, the people, have concluded that we should all be protected from old age, sickness, and unemployment, and have elected representatives to protect these programs. Some of the millionaires and billionaires like Mitt Romney think that just because they don't need any help, then no one in America needs or wants help. They want to whine about these programs now that they've lost the election, and I suggest they find a remote piece of land and begin constructing their Ayn Rand utopia far, far away from the rest of us in the we society, America. In Screwed news, coal baron Robert Murray recently announced he's laying off 163 of his employees because, he says, President Obama was reelected. He claimed that due to an Obama second term, his company must now go into survival mode. We now know at least one reason why his company may be short on cash, because he threw away $100,000 in campaign contributions to Karl Rove's super PAC. And Murray Energy spent another $3 million on lobbying and other political contributions. After all those failed tries to buy seats for Republican politicians, Robert Murray claims his company just can't afford to keep workers on the payroll anymore. It's time to build a wall between government and business. Not only does business corrupt government through the obvious methods of lobbying and spending unlimited amounts in our elections, but government corrupts business as well. Think of how much more efficient business could be if, rather than investing in politicians and legislation, they invested in their own businesses and their workers. In the best of the rest of the news, something fishy is going on in Florida's 18th congressional district. The Democrat Patrick Murphy was declared the winner in the race. His opponent, freshman Tea Party Congressman Allen West, is refusing to concede, especially now that 800 votes vanished over the weekend when an unsanctioned recount was conducted on electronic voting machines in one county in the district. According to Florida law, if the race is within 0.5% or less, 0.5% or less, then an automatic recount is triggered. Currently, Murphy leads West by just more than that threshold. As to why a recount was ordered in the first place in just one county, which allowed West to gain 500 votes on his opponent, no one seems to know the answer. This is just another consequence of privatizing the vote and relying on paperless machines to pick our representatives. It makes no sense. BP is about to be hit with the largest criminal penalty in the history of the United States for its role in the 2010 Gulf oil spill. So far, the settlement is still under wraps, but one official said BP will have to pay billions of dollars for the damage caused to the environment and local businesses. There are also reports that 2 BP employees may actually face criminal manslaughter charges over the deaths of 11 workers when the Deepwater Horizon rig exploded, triggering the oil spill, though corporate suits going to jail rarely happens in America. All in all, slapping BP with billions in penalties is a good start. But to make sure this sort of corporate misbehavior never happens again, the United States should go a step further and revoke BP's right to do any business in the United States. There are plenty of American companies that would be glad to pick up the slack. And finally, now that President Obama has been reelected, he's going to kick his mind control agenda into high gear. Or at least that's what a group of Republican state senators in Georgia think. Mother Jones is reporting on a secret meeting in the Georgia state capitol last month, convened by the Senate's majority leader to expose President Obama's secret mind control plans. Senate leader Chip Rogers showed his fellow senators a slideshow equating President Obama with Joseph Stalin and Mao Zedong, and alleging that the president is using a mind control tactic known as the Delphi technique to force Americans into our cities and put our nation under the thumb of the United Nations. Several other Republican state lawmakers in places like Kansas and Tennessee have actually already passed legislation to block President Obama from using UN mind control on us. Most of the language in this anti-UN legislation is provided for by the wackadoodles at the Koch-founded John Birch Society. Of course, in this place called reality, the UN's Agenda 21 is not a secret takeover of the United States. It's just a non-binding agreement to encourage nations to promote a sustainable environment. But in the conservative Twilight Zone, nothing is as it seems. And that's the way it is today, Thursday, November 15th, 2012. I'm Thom Hartmann.